All right, guys, we're getting down to brass tacks with WEAPONX.
That is so great. That is single-handedly your greatest life achievement, probably, by far.
What's up, guys? We're back with Derik Oslan. I'm Scott McNally. Of course, all our programming is brought to you by True Nutrition. Dude, I've got this. Do you have this yet?
I do. I have 3 of them, actually. So, like, I don't know why they gave me 3. I guess I could use one for cardio, one for training, but that shirt is dope.
I got a couple of them. So here's my thought. And I actually have a couple of these, which, believe it or not, don't fit me. These are the girls.
I was going to say, Anastasia has that one. I think it's a crop top.
Yes, this is a girl's crop top. So I've got a guy's shirt and a girl's shirt. We'll have to come up with a reason to like give those away at some point in the future. I'm not sure what yet. So you and I will have to put our heads together. Guys, today we are going to talk about Guys, we're going to talk about exercise selection today. We've got so many topics. We
really do. So exercise selection in order is today. Now, just a disclaimer. There is no perfect way to do this or necessarily right or wrong. It is what works for you. Me and Scott, will give our opinions on how we like to construct this and what we feel works best. We will give our reasoning as to why, and then at that point, you are allowed to critically think and deduce for yourself what would work best for you. So we're not doing any program prescriptions here. We're just talking about what we think works best.
Sounds good to me, man.
Is that a good disclaimer?
I think it is. You know, I mean, all we can do is try to help people. We're not even with people in the gym. You know what I mean? To set these things up, and everybody is so individual. And I'll tell you what, man, I feel like there's nothing that's just because I'll want to do something one way doesn't mean I'll have the same ideas 6 months later. Like for me, There's been times I've gone through huge phases of pre-fatiguing my chest and starting with a pec deck before I go into my presses. Other times I'm like, no, man, I want to get right in there, get straight to the presses. I'm strong and I want to ride that strength. So I think it always depends. Like you said, man, it's a real individual thing.
Another thing I've done is I actually got this idea from John Jewett, which was he used to start his push days with lateral raises before he would get into his chest pressing. Yeah. Because I think something about his shoulder, the AC joint was bothering him. But his presses were stronger and more stable and efficient when he was starting with lateral raises. Plus, at the time, he felt like his shoulders were lagging, so it was just a good reason. He had multiple reasons to put that first, and I did that for a while, and I really like that too. But I've done push days, for instance, the same way, like those 3 ways that you just outlined.
That's cool. By the way, I like John Jewett a lot. He is such a smart dude. We need to get him on one of these shows.
That actually I don't think that would be that hard to do, actually. I wouldn't say I talk to him like super frequently, but I talk to him often enough. He's really very, very nice person. I would consider him a friend for sure.
Very knowledgeable too. Like just really, and great physique too. He's been getting absolutely peeled this year too, like out of his mind.
Oh yeah. Well, condition has always been something that he's been known for. So now he's just focused on bringing up, lagging body parts, which I think for him has always been his chest. And then his like upper mid back, like traps and rhomboids. Yeah. So those are the things that I believe he's been really hyper focused on lately, at least over the last, this year for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, where do we start then? With our disclaimer out of the way.
Well, you brought up push day, so I think, and I did push today.
Nice.
So I think that's a good place to start. So, exercise selection in order. Now, the reason why we made this the last episode in terms of us talking about training programming, like that little segment that we've been doing, is I personally feel that it is the least important of the variables that we have discussed. Now, that's not to say that it's not important at all, but if you train like ass, your exercise selection doesn't matter. You can have the perfect exercise selection, but if you don't know how to go to failure, it really doesn't matter at all.
I totally agree.
that you have the perfect exercise order, that you have the perfect elbow angle for your Nautilus pull down, and you have the perfect thoracic spinal torque, and your moment arm is perfectly measured. Like none of that matters if you don't know how to train hard and intense. So
I agree.
That's why we have that last. So, but it is important, especially when you are when progression is important to you and you're trying to address specific body parts. So, for push day, I have one of two ways that I have constructed it. So this is my favorite way. What I used to do was I used to do each body part individually. What I mean is I would do all of my chest exercises together.
Okay.
I would do then all of my shoulder movements together, and then I would do my tricep movements together. And I think actually that's the way that I did it. That's actually the way that I did it today. Just because it's not the way I usually do it. So I wanted something a little bit different.
That's what I generally do. I'll do my chest exercises, starting with the big body part, whatever. If I'm doing multiple body parts, I generally start with that big body part, chest in this case, then shoulders, then go to triceps after that.
Right. So that's the way I did it today. Again, that's not the way I usually do it, and that's the reason why I kind of favored it. Now, another thing that I want to point out is when we're talking about this and you're trying all these different things out, guys, make sure that you are progressing in your performance throughout the entirety of the session, that your exercise selection is not hindering you in some areas, because you could have good exercise selection, but the order could cause you to have diminishing performance with subsequent movements. So you want to make sure that you can either maintain or progress performance throughout the session. Now, could that be an order issue or could that be an endurance issue? Yeah, that's another thing you'll have to decipher for yourself. But that's another reason why I always say try to get stronger in multiple rep ranges, not just, your 6 to 8, 8 to 10, etc.
Yeah.
But anyway, so just log all of your lifts, keep track of your performance week to week, and make sure that all of your lifts from beginning to end, all of your sets are progressing week to week, and that you're not only progressing in some, but diminishing in others. Because then you just kind of level out in a sense. So the other way that you could do a push session that I frequently do that I like is instead of dividing it by body part, divide it by movement pattern. Oh. So what I mean is your pressing movements and your isolation movements.
I've never done that. Never done that.
I absolutely love it. Now, obviously, you have to have really good endurance for maintaining pressing strength throughout.
Yeah.
But so an example push day that I would do that I like. So let's say I start with incline dumbbell.
Sure.
Right. So I'll do incline dumbbell. Everything is 2 working sets, but we've talked about volume, so I'm not going to go into that again. But so incline dumbbell press. Then I might do an incline hammer. Actually, no, I would do an incline dumbbell. Then I would do like an incline Smith. I really like incline Smith. That's probably my favorite chest movement.
Okay.
Then I would do a high incline Smith or a overhead shoulder press, like a machine overhead shoulder press. So we're talking incline dumbbell press, incline Smith, high incline, so where you're more more like this as opposed to all the way back here.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's to hit shoulders. And the reason why I like a slight incline on that overhead press is it feels a lot better on your rotator cuff than if you try to be like perfectly vertical.
I would agree.
It really feels like shit on your rotator cuff.
Hey, you're training chest anyway too. So if you get a little pec in there, whatever, right?
Not a big deal. In fact, that's probably a good thing. And then I'll do some sort of tricep press. That could be kickouts. That could be close grip bench, heavy dip machine, something along those lines.
I love this.
So like I'll typically do either 2 chest presses and a shoulder press and a tricep press, or if you want it to be shoulder focused, you could do 2 shoulder presses, 1 chest, and 1 tricep press. Now you're done with your pressing. Now you can go into your isolation movement. So then I would do like a cable fly or or a pec deck fly.
Yeah.
Then I would do some sort of lateral raise, whether it's machine or dumbbell, and then I would do like a rope extension.
I love this. I'm going to try
some
this.
Extension.
You taught me something today. Why did nobody ever tell me this before?
I have no answer for you. I actually picked this up. I actually picked this methodology up from Christmas Cabbage. We had a. So you've been trying to solve the mystery of where Christmas Cabbage has been per the last episode with Dave.
Yeah.
Christmas Cabbage is on holiday with me.
He's been in Florida.
Yeah, he's been training me. So that's how. So that's where I've gotten that from.
Cool.
Yeah, so pressing isolation movements. So that's another way to divide it, and I really enjoy that, and I'm able to progress in each subsequent movement. Plus, you're getting all the neurologically taxing movements out of the way in the beginning of the session.
Yeah.
So when you get closer to the end, when you're a little bit more tired, you have the movements that are not as neurologically taxing at the end, where you can put a little bit more effort in without, running yourself into the ground.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously, I'm talking in terms of a push-pull leg split, just because that's probably my favorite setup in terms of getting the amount of volume you need in order to continually progress your muscle groups. And, thank you, Ethan. Tell us how everything's going. Scott said you're at the hospital. We want to know how you are specifically.
I asked him if he had his baby in between our recordings, and he said, yes, I wish I could post a pic, but I'm currently holding her.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Man.
Yes, congrats on your baby girl. Yes, that's cool. Awesome.
He's a client of mine, by the way, and I don't want to go into his own personal details, but he had to put a lot of effort into making this happen.
I know a few people that have had that struggle as well.
And it's so cool to see it freaking come together. It actually makes me feel a little bit emotional because this has been a long time. I was
really hoping that he wasn't tuning in to Brass Tacks while his wife was in labor.
Push, honey, push.
No, not even. He's standing in the hallway, like, let me know when you're done. I gotta watch Brass Tacks.
I gotta learn about about how to do my exercise selection.
I gotta learn about muscle rounds. I'll be back. So that's push. Now, pull day. Okay, so this is how I like to do it. I will typically pull day will obviously be back, biceps, and rear delt. So I find rear delt is a very neglected muscle. It is small in comparison, and it's behind you, so you don't really see it, so you don't really think about it. However, if you really want a nasty side chest shot, have a big rear delt.
Yes, sir.
It completes the picture. And especially if you have a big rear delt, there's a very clear separation between, like, you have the roundness back here, and then you can see where the tricep starts, instead of it being two separate. I mean, instead of it looking like one big mass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it gives you that, like you said, that 3D look from the side.
Absolutely.
And it caps off your rear relaxed. When you're standing there, your lats come up into those capped around delts. If you've got good rear delts and you're standing there and you're rear relaxed, man, it looks good.
And the rear double. It's a really overlooked body part that adds a lot of, I'm going to use the term completion, for lack of better terms, to the physique.
It's a good word.
In certain shots. So back, biceps, rear delts, and actually I do back, rear delts, and biceps. So for the back portion, you'll have a pull A and a pull B typically. You could also do a push A and a push B if you like. You could have one that's chest focused, like I said, and have one that's shoulder focused. So you could divide it that way. Just make sure that the movements are similar but still in line to the structure that you're trying to follow. Now for pull, you're either going to start with a vertical pull or a horizontal pull, obviously, if we're still talking in terms of movement patterns. Whichever one you start off with, I like to do the opposite as the second movement. So if I do a horizontal pull, like a bent over row or a pen lay row or T-bar, something like that, then I'll go to a vertical pull, which will be either a mid grip pull down, a wide grip pull down, pull ups, and I'll alternate because the back is such a big area of muscle with multiple muscle groups that you could conceivably divide into the upper back and the lower back. I like to divide it that way and separate it that way, so that way one area is always getting a break while the other one's working.
Okay. Huh.
So let's say I started with a deadlift, right? My next exercise would then be a mid grip pull down. I really, really like mid grip pull downs.
Okay.
And then my next movement would be a T-bar row or a low cable row. And then the next movement would be pull up or wide grip pull down. I really, really like dumbbell pullovers as my last movement on a pull day.
That's a great one.
Enjoy that.
It's a great one for the stretch.
For the stretch. Now for that one, one recommendation that I always make to people is when you follow through with the dumbbell, stop at your forehead. Don't go beyond that.
Yes.
The reason is the dumbbell is now moving horizontally from that point to your chest, which is where people usually stop. Gravity is doing nothing. You are creating zero tension in your lats at all. So all of this is just wasted glycogen from here to here. So when you get all the way back as far as you can, you follow through to the forehead, and then you go right back down. Yeah. And always remember that the elbow is your point of reference in terms of engaging your lats properly. Plus, you'll have really developed serratus as well if you do this properly. I really like pullovers at that spot, that fifth spot. So I'll do vertical pull. If I start with a vertical, then it'll be vertical, horizontal, pullover. If I start with horizontal, I'll do horizontal, vert, pullover.
Okay.
That's the back portion.
For me,
I usually do.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna just explain that something different that I do, but were you gonna say you usually do what?
No, I was just gonna say I usually don't. Almost never go beyond 5 movements. Sometimes I'll even stop at 4 movements.
Yeah, that's a lot
for back. So there's no need. If you're taking those to failure, you really don't need more.
I do the same thing. I do rear delts with my back work. I used to do all my shoulders together, but it just makes sense to me. But I will usually start with a pull down movement, and I feel like that gets my central nervous system keyed up enough that I can start doing something that's really intense from there. To be a pull down, no matter how, you can go 110% on a pull down, and that's different than going 100% on, say, a barbell row.
A bent over row. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then I'll go into that stuff next, and I'll have a couple of 1 to 2, one real key meat and potatoes back movement or row of some type. And then from there, a secondary row where I'm trying to hit it from a different angle, maybe a little bit higher rep range. And then from there, then I go into the rear delts. That's the way I've been doing it recently. For about 5 years straight, we did a program. We did programs that John had written. So we would always start with a pull down. We would also move into rows, but there would be more sets, multiple sets, multiple exercises. If we were going to do a deadlift, the deadlift would come after the rows, and then we would finish once again with a pullover. Always we finished with dumbbell pullover. We went to dumbbell pullovers, and if we didn't do a deadlift, then we would go to hyper extensions.
Ooh, I know John always loved hypers. He always had those in every program I've ever done.
Those worked really good for me, and they really strengthened up my lower back. Repair from injury strengthened up.
Another thing I learned this year actually. Another reason why he would program those in is because he liked he would program abs into a pull day because after all the back work, your lower back is really tight and pumped up. So he would program abs in after the back work to shift some of the blood away from your lower back and into your anterior.
Okay. Yeah, we never did that, but I could see that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So then rear delts. So
yes,
there's a few different exercises you can do here. So I usually only do one, but it's obviously either a reverse pec deck or a rear delt fly with dumbbells or a face pull. I would say the rear delt dumbbell is the one I like the most.
Okay.
And recently, the way I execute it is I typically do 1.5s.
Oh.
So
which is another intensifying technique.
Oh my god,
they're endless.
Suck.
They're endless.
We're gonna be coming up with new intensity techniques for like the next 3 episodes.
We're like, guys, there's 5 intensity techniques, and we're gonna tell you about them today. And there's like 500 other ones we didn't know about.
That's so funny. 1.5. So just to illustrate for everyone watching, so you'll come all the way up until your arms are almost parallel with the ground. You'll come down a small portion of the way. You'll go back up again, and then you'll go all the way back down.
Whew.
That's 1.5. And the contraction that you get in that little tiny like quarter half point. It's technically not half. It's technically I come a quarter of the way down and then I go back up.
Yeah.
But the contraction you get there is absolutely incredible. So I'll do that for 8 to 10 reps, 2 sets, maybe 12 reps.
Okay.
But, that's my favorite for rear delt by far. And then from there into bicep. So I 2 bicep movements and then you're done. Now, this is what I've learned. You can tell me if you agree or if you see it a different way. But for biceps, if you want complete bicep development, the way I've thought of it and what I feel to be the most important is most people think that hand placement is what is the determining factor in your bicep development. It does play a role. However, the thing that plays the most important role is the position of your upper arm, your humerus, in relation to how you're executing the movement. So I would put it...
You explained this on one of the previous episodes.
I did.
I had never really thought about it the way you explained it. But after you explained it, I tried it. And I feel like it was...
How'd it work?
It was good. I actually did... one thing I tried was I did a set of 21s with the barbell. And I hit 6 in one, I hit 7, 7, and 7 in each position.
I did 21s with 6 reps.
I got to 18 and then I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. So 7, 7, and 7 in those.
Yeah.
What are the 3 positions that you so you're what, back here?
Anterior.
Okay.
Anterior, neutral, posterior.
Yeah.
So, an example of each one. So example of anterior, like this, would be a preacher curl or spider curls, where your arm is in front of you. Then neutral, obviously, you just, you grab a bar or, some dumbbells and you start with let me move forward a little bit. You start with the dumbbells at your side and you just, kind of do your thing. And so you're in the neutral position. You could do hammer curls or just standing dumbbell curls. Where you twist, or you could keep your hands supinated the whole time, no matter whatever. That's neutral. And then you have posterior. This would be like if you were sitting on an incline bench.
Yes.
And you were doing curls that way. Or if you did curls against a wall where your feet are out in front of you, and if you have good posture, you're gonna be back like this against the wall, but you're standing. So the cool thing about that is, versus a bench, is you can put your triceps against the wall, so you have something to brace your elbows and your triceps against, so that way you're not getting as much shoulder move. You're not getting any shoulder movement.
Right.
You're almost doing like a pseudo preacher curl, but you're standing.
Yeah. What are they called? I'm thinking of another one. What are those curls called that you do on a Smith machine, where you just bring
drag curls.
Drag curls. You just bring it straight up your body. That would be that same position, wouldn't it? No, not quite.
I feel like it'd be more of a. I feel like that'd be more of a neutral.
Okay. Because I feel like my elbows have to go. I feel like my elbows have to go back because you can't. I mean, if you're standing out in front of it, you could kind of curl it straight up. But if you're standing more neutral, like with the bar at your waist real close, then my elbows have to go back as I curl it up.
The only reason why I don't typically favor drag curls is just because unless you have really, really good connection and control over your body, it is very easy to involve the traps.
Oh, sure.
And it's very easy to involve your back because your elbows are going backwards.
Yeah.
So there's a very high temptation there. So if you can avoid doing that, drag curls are a great exercise. But if you are unable to keep your body from doing that, then no.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's my synopsis of that. Okay, so biceps, anterior, neutral, posterior. If you want complete bicep development, in my opinion, that is the best way to do it. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that you train the brachialis as well, and you're going to do that with hammer curls. So that is probably the only scenario in which your hand position matters. So having a neutral hand position when you curl will allow you to train the brachialis.
That makes sense. Yeah. Let us move on to legs then. We're a little short on time, but I'm sure we can squeeze this in.
Oh yeah. I really don't have too much to say. What I would say is I always like to start my leg days with a hamstring movement.
Okay.
Isolated knee flexion. So that would be either a seated leg curl or a lying leg curl. Or if you have a kneeling leg curl machine where, you're kneeling on a pad and then the other one is extended, those are really good too. But I always like to start with hamstrings just because my squatting movements and my leg press are much more stable and powerful. I feel like I have more leverage. And it's very easy to warm up the knee doing knee flexion as opposed to knee extension.
I like to do the same thing.
So also, I highly recommend adduction, adduction. So good, was that Good Girls? Yeah, Good Girls.
Yes.
I did do the thing. I really like adductors at the beginning of the leg day. Adductors and hamstrings, and then everything else is the next three movements would be like compounds. So I usually do 2 lower body push. So that would be, push movements. Examples would be barbell squat, Smith squat, hacks, leg press, V squat, pendulum. All of those are push movements. Okay. And then lower body pull obviously is hip hinge, so deadlifts. And then I would usually do so that's 2 push, 1 pull, a leg extension, and then I believe in attacking all of the movement patterns. So lower body push, lower body pull, so that's knee extension, knee flexion, hip hinge, and lunge.
Okay.
I feel like every leg day should have some form of lunge style movement, whether it's actual walking lunges, whether it's split squats, or whether it's Bulgarians.
Lunges are tough, man. I feel like lunges are one of the toughest, and that's an exercise that I don't care how much equipment you have at home. You can do a lunge at any gym, or at home.
I would say they're difficult with body weight only, especially after a full leg day. They're a bitch. But you're training the entirety of all of your movement patterns, so you're going to get the most leg development. Oh, and train calves.
Yeah, train calves.
For all you tiny calves.
How often do you hit calves?
So in off season, I'll typically do calves like twice a week. If I'm really lazy, once a week. Okay. But like in prep, especially towards the end, like the last 4 to 5 weeks of a prep, I'll do calves every single day. Yeah. 7 days a week.
And they handle it. They're okay with that.
Yeah, they grew in a deficit when I did that for the Olympia actually, because John and Paul Carter were doing that challenge. They were doing a calf challenge. Okay. And they did it for a whole month. Every single day, and they were like competing to see who would have the bigger calves at the end. So I did the same thing, but I did it up until the Olympia. So it ended up being 44 days of calf work straight. And I was in a deficit that whole time, and I put on a quarter or half inch on my calves.
No kidding.
Here you go. Just giving the Anastasia her phone.
Right.
So yeah, it was almost a half inch. It was just short of a half inch on each of my calves, and I was in a deficit that entire time.
That's pretty incredible, man.
Could some of that have been just having blood in there constantly? Sure, but
a half inch of inflammation.
Half inch of inflammation that I kept that entire time because I didn't want anyone to say shit about my calves when I was at the Olympia.
Yeah,
and no one did. So
I asked John about his calf training when we did a Principles of Mountain Dog training episode, and he had said he would hit them every day they didn't feel sore, and he'd just do like 4 or 5 sets, hard sets. And I've heard Dave Palumbo say the same thing. Both guys had said to use good strict form, no bouncing, obviously, get a good stretch, all of that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was doing 3 working sets, and I would do like anywhere from 12 to 20 reps, and then I would do a 10 to 15 second stretch after every set.
Okay.
So I would find some surface, and I would just put the ball of my foot against. I do 1 foot at a time. Put the ball of my foot against it, lean my body forward, get the full stretch of the calf, do the other calf individually, and then I'd go right back onto the machine.
Yeah.
And I would repeat that 3 times. So that's what I did every day and I would alternate between the standing, the seated, and the leg press.
Okay. Well, listen, so to wrap this up then, we both kind of, I didn't explain anything with my legs, and that's fine. You're the Olympian
it's not fine.
You're the Olympian bodybuilder here. I think that and you're the one that I wanted to hear what you did anyway. We both did talk about back, push and pull. So is there any advice you would like to close with as far as, I guess ideas, because we've given people a lot of ideas.
Absolutely.
What do you want them to take away with this as they put together their own programs?
Yes. So as you are, first of all, don't be afraid to experiment. There is no perfect way, right or wrong way. If you took me and Scott and Dr. Scott and 3 other bodybuilders and asked us how we programmed our training, you would probably get 6 completely different answers.
Yeah.
So we all have figured out on some level what works for us individually. There are some overarching fundamentals such as training intensity and things of that sort. But I would say the overarching concept when you are looking into your own programming is make sure that it promotes forward movement in your performance.
Agreed.
That it doesn't hinder in any way. So if you are able to come out of the gate swinging and you always PR on your first and second movement, but then movements 3 through 5 are trash and you're declining, there is something wrong with your programming, assuming all other variables are in check, as in rep execution, intensity, and all of that. So you need to revisit that. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I have people message me all the time and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? I will respond. I'm sure Scott will respond. I'm sure Dr. Scott would respond. We have no problem helping, so don't feel like you have to do this on your own either. We all learned from somebody, so take advantage of the resources afforded to you to also learn and to make sure that you are always progressing.
Also, you could hire Derik. There's that.
Or you could pay me, and I'll do it all for you, no problem. Or Scott, you could hire Scott too.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's close this thing out. I think this is some good insight for everybody, and we appreciate you guys watching. I'd be curious to hear if people do things any differently than what we've talked about.
Yes. Yes, I'm always open to new ideas and learning, for sure.
Because there's so many ideas to do everything. I think you started this out really well, saying that like, hey, this isn't the be all end all. This is just like what we do.
Yes, absolutely. So find out what works for you, and then ride it till the wheels fall off.
WEAPONX. I just had to throw that in there. I knew you would love that.
Jacked up. I really do. That's awesome. That's probably that was like the highlight of my week. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, for another episode of Brass Tacks with Derik Oslan, WEAPONX. I'm Scott McNally, guys. Everything we're doing is presented to you by True Nutrition. Go check them out. Use our codes either THINK or WEAPONX. We appreciate you guys. Yes. Thanks for watching.